Welcome, everyone. Let's get started. We're here to draw. And as usual, we're going to start with a 5-minute warm-up. Today, I'm going to be drawing a Triceratops model from... Oh my gosh, I just can't believe I just forgot their names. From... I don't remember. I'll find it. I'll look it up. Anyways... I feel like every time I'm on live stream, I forget everything I know. I'll just go look it up real fast. Anyways, yeah, so 5-minute warm-up. Just doodle, draw whatever you want. Get yourself warmed up. And then we'll jump in. Still going with reference. You can draw whatever you'd like. By... Who's it by? What are they called? Sideshow Collectibles. There we go. Sideshow Collectibles. Okay, so let's get started.
Did you start the timer? Or did you want me to start?
I started the timer, yeah. Hi, Bruce. What's up, fist bump? All right.
Hello, Bruce. Sophia says, good morning, Austin and Caleb and everyone here. Hi, Sophia.
Good morning, Sophia.
Hi, Samantha. Samantha says, hello, boys. So for those of you guys who are just tuning in now, we are going to be drawing from references. And so go ahead and let us know in the chat what you guys are going to be drawing. This is cool. It's like a bull-looking creature.
Something like that.
So I was watching a video earlier this morning about concept art. It was a speech that a concept artist and director of a concept studio was giving, and it's really interesting because he said the route that concept art is going is a lot more with 3D stuff and a lot of um, photo composites and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is interesting because I remember someone asking about one of your courses where you overlay photo textures and photos of eyes or whatever it is, and you mentioned about how much quicker it makes it, and just different um, effects and things that you can get by using photos and overlaying them or incorporating them somehow into your concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of cool to see, to hear from a concept artist and a director, um, to hear about where concept art is going.
Yeah, I mean, especially now, it's like a lot of those big studios that are making these really big movies, they're pumping them out pretty fast. Like, I mean, it used to take like several years to make a movie. Now they're doing them in about 1.5. And not only that, but they're a lot more complex and there's a lot more things that they're going on. And so when they're getting this concept art made, they need it really fast and they want it to look as accurate and as realistic as possible to what the actual end thing is going to be. So that speeds up the process. And using photo composites just it's so much quicker, it's so fast, and it looks so much more realistic because it has elements of realism already involved. So um, yeah, I think if you can learn digital and traditional, or not traditional, 3D sculpting and 2D art, you would have a huge advantage. I want to go that route, and I have plans. I don't know. It's kind of expensive to get started, but I think that it would be worth it, especially if you want to get work in that field. So I'm gonna be doing this. I think what is this? A Styracosaurus? No, maybe. I think it's a Styracosaurus it's a model from Sideshow Collectibles. So they just have really great dinosaurs, and I kind of want to do some studies of their sculptures to help me have a better idea. Certain things I like their style. So this is a good example of what I've talked about before, where I think that it's good to study and practice drawing other people's work. You don't necessarily pass it off as your own and claim, the creative mind behind the creation of this, but you can practice drawing and studying these other works of art by other people who are really talented in order to help you improve your skills. So
Yeah, if they've accomplished a really cool effect or idea or something like that, I think it's really great to try to copy their work to see kind of what was going on
mhm,
underneath all the layers and how they got to that effect or feel in their artwork.
mhm.
All right, so Bruce Nunn has a question. It says this question is to both of you, and both of you can give your opinion. I've heard this said when it comes to art that speed is 100 times more important than perfection. Do you all think this is true?
Depends on what the purpose of the art is. Um, Most cases, though, yes, speed is more important. But I mean, if you're working as an artist, whether you're doing illustration or concept art or comic books or whatever it is, your speed is going to be a really important factor because that saying, time equals money has a lot of truth to it, and that studios can only make as much money as content they create, and so they're trying to get out as much as possible, and they have deadlines that they want to try and meet, and yeah, so if you can work fast, that's going to be a lot more valuable in the industry because that equals more money. That's more content that can be getting put out, or even for yourself, if you want to make your own content, you'd be able to work fast still. That would still hold true. So yeah, being able to work fast is definitely a really powerful asset, I think. And geez, and and some like even if you're going to be a fine artist, you don't have to work fast, but you'll probably make more money if you do, because that's more art that you'll be able to put out. And saying some like calling art perfect is such a weird thing, because it's like calling anything perfect is kind of weird, because it's only perfect relative to what its purpose is. So like, for example, um you could say that this is a perfect dinosaur sculpture. What does that mean exactly? Like perfectly accurate, perfectly visually pleasing, perfect for using it in your Dungeons and Dragons game. Like, what I mean? It's not perfect for maybe for being a paperweight, maybe, or it's not
Mhm.
perfect for being a can opener, right? Like it. So saying art, whether it's better to be fast or perfect, it's kind of subjective. Like some people might be like, that's a perfect piece of art, and other people be like, that's not what we want, that's not what we're looking for. So I don't know, it's a good question, but I think that speed, uh I don't know if I can place a value on it being more important, but I can say that it will probably uh get you more opportunities if you can be faster rather than perfect, or I guess whatever you want to call it.
Samantha Pixley thought the can opener line was pretty funny.
I mean, it maybe could work as a can opener. It's kind of got that beak and that horn. We could try it.
Might not be perfect though.
True. I guess anything could be a can opener. It just might. I mean, I could be a can opener. I can open a can. My Apple Pencil could be a can opener if I try enough times. I just stab it until it breaks through.
Yeah, so I think that's great feedback about um, perfection versus speed. I don't know if they really have to kind of go against each other, because, like you said, a perfect concept, uh, maybe what helps or contributes to making it a perfect concept is the speed
Yeah.
in which it is created. Um, a perfect concept artist, which I don't believe there really is one, but if you were to say somebody who is very, very highly effective would obviously be one that can do things very quickly and get the idea across.
Like even if we imagine like what's the ideal concept artist, right? Like if there's a theoretical perfect concept artist, speed would be like part of the determining factor. So yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
they're not like mutually exclusive. Like it's not like you have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, and if you're referring to perfection as highly detailed and everything 100% accurate, then
You can still
then
do that fast.
yeah, you can do things accurately and fast, but it is definitely different if you're doing a piece of fine art that you want to look perfect in your mind, or perfect to you, how you envisioned it or how you want it to be. um, I think it's great to take your time until you're happy with it, instead of just spitting out a bunch of artwork. I think it's great to take your time on things that need time. But anyway, Sophia's saying, I didn't know the prompt would be referenced today. What I'm going to try, or what I'm doing, is trying to use the info I kept in memory in my recent anatomy studies to draw a woman. So I'm not using a reference today.
Oh, cool. Well, let's see how it turns out. Hopefully you feel like you made some progress.
Bruce Nunn says, very well explained.
I try. Even though Caleb explained most of that one.
I don't know. I think you did, but we both did, I guess.
He's like talking to Caleb, and I'm like, thanks. Yeah, no problem. It's so crazy how much faster. I don't know. I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, I know why. It's like years of practice and stuff, but it still kind of blows my mind how much faster I am at drawing animals and creatures and stuff like that than people. Like I almost have this completely blocked out, and it feels a lot more accurate than the last like tribesman guy I did already. And last time it took me like up until almost the 45-minute mark to get to close to this point. I think maybe a little bit sooner than that, but
See, and that's funny because it's the total opposite for me. I'm much better with people, and drawing animals and things. I'd be um, more concerned or less comfortable, I should say, with the animal anatomy. Interesting comment. Bruce says, I have a perfectionistic gene and it has been sort of a curse when it comes to art at times. That's why I asked. I'm very well put by you both.
well, yeah, like we said, they're not mutually exclusive. So if you got that perfectionist gene, try and make it work to your advantage by being a perfectionist who's really fast.
Yeah, and I want to point out, you probably already know this, Bruce, and this goes for everyone, but like, if you feel like you're somebody who's a perfectionist, or even the opposite, where it's really hard to put in detail in your artwork and like finish a project or something like that. If you are one extreme or the other, you can definitely change or improve in that area. So for me, I felt like I was very much a perfectionist and had to have things just right. And I was very into like photorealistic drawings and lots of detail and things like that. But it was starting to get overwhelming for me because um, I was so focused on little details, and it took so much um, mental energy.
Well, can I add something too?
Yeah.
And when you're really focused on that like photorealism and perfection sort of thing, the better artist you become, the more things you start to notice that you didn't notice before about something. Like the more you start to pick up on little tiny nuances in the reference or in the drawing. And then like the list of things that you mentally need to do in order to consider it like perfectly realistic gets bigger and bigger and bigger the longer you're an artist, because you start to you become better,
Yeah.
Anyways, go
Yeah,
ahead.
definitely. No, for sure. Yeah, so I would say definitely don't become complacent or just feel like that's just who you are, and there's no way to change. If you're too much of a perfectionist or the opposite or whatever, um, just know that there are definitely ways that you can improve that. So for me, some of the ways that I improved that, where we're doing a lot of photo references. I was trying to make it look exactly like the photo, down to every little detail. I started doing more gesture drawing and um, doing more just loose sketches and trying to give myself a certain amount of time and say, I can only do this drawing in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever it was. And that helped me a lot. And then I started also playing with different mediums that, since I was just starting with the medium like watercolor, it takes a lot of effort to make something photorealistic in watercolor. And if you're using watercolor, most of the time you don't want it to look photorealistic, like exactly like a real photo. So
And with watercolor, you have to go fast.
yeah, you have
Like
to
if
go
you want
fast.
to take your time, watercolor's like, no thanks, we're gonna dry, okay? And you're like, wait, I need to
Exactly.
blend you.
And they're like, nope. So it's definitely a good thing to branch out and to like find those little things that will help you not be such a perfectionist. And then Bruce adds that's why the iPad has really helped in loosening that up. So I think that's really cool. Like you found a way to help yourself not be um, too rigid, and definitely that perfectionistic mindset can help in a lot of art projects. But
Yeah, I would say I would just add to everything overall is you should always be working to like improve yourself, and be getting better at whatever it is you want to do or what's important to you. On the other side, you should also though try and play to your strengths. Like you obviously want to improve and get your speed, but if you're kind of a perfectionist, try and use that to your advantage and put yourself in situations or work on things where that's going to help you as a skill set, um, instead of like hurt you. I actually, uh, it was like a TED Talk thing I went to, like TEDx, and the lady was talking about special needs people, and how we can like incorporate them into society more without having to, and like get businesses to like hire them and work with them more, um without it being like a burden on them, like financially or whatever, in order to do that. And she was pointing out that like there's a lot of characteristics that, say, someone with autism has, that in a lot of scenarios would be difficult or be a hindrance, but in other scenarios would be extremely valuable. For example, someone with autism can be hyper focused on the same thing for hours a day, and where a normal person would get really burnt out and bored, a person with autism, like, they don't care. Like, they will be super, like, they'll just go and go
thrive
and
on
go and
that.
go, right? And or how someone with autism might not like, um they might not pick up on certain social cues, and instead will say like the facts, the logical facts of something, regardless of whether it hurts someone's feelings or not, which in a business sense is actually really valuable. You want someone who's capable of doing that, who's not going to be worried about saying rational information, but they're not going to say it because they're going to hurt someone's feelings. You want someone who's like, I'll say it. Like, why wouldn't I say this? This is the objective reality. Um, and that some like that person would probably be not the right person to work in a customer service job, but would be the person to work in like a data analysis department or something like that. So anyways, my point is that, um, if you're a perfectionist, try and kind of game that to your advantage and use it in a way that's going to benefit you, instead of having to like fight against it. I mean, you still might need to temper it some and work with it, but um, the more that you can put yourself in situations to take advantage of what you're already good at or what characteristics you already possess, I think the better off you'll be most of the time. Anyways.
That's awesome. Bruce Nunn says, I really appreciate the feedback. This helps to hear from other artists. And he also says, yes, I definitely need to do that timed drawing to make myself get the important shapes in and the gestures. I think it's great. I think it's great that, Austin, that you're doing, this sketch every day within an hour, to help you just focus on what's most important to you in that hour, and try to get that done. And I think that's awesome. I've really enjoyed when I do gesture drawings and I just give myself literally like 1 or 2 minutes and just do as many as I can, and that I learned so much. Um, so let's see. Um, Tizzy is saying, as I'm new to Procreate, I'm cheating today. I'm doing a reference drawing of a cat, but the cat is on a reference layer. So I'm not sure what she means by that, or what they mean by that.
Like you're tracing over it?
That's what I was thinking, was maybe that they're tracing over it.
Yeah, I don't really think tracing is cheating either, but
I don't think so either.
I trace stuff. Um, if you shouldn't trace other people's art, that's bad. Well, I mean, you can trace, like, for example, actually, this is
You
something
can trace it, just
yeah,
don't call it
yeah,
yours.
don't call it yours. This is something I teach in my courses, and is to take images of creatures and stuff in my creature design course and trace over it and see if you can figure out the kind of structural skeletal anatomy of it. And that's one of the assignments is, trace over this, see if you can figure out where all the joints go and stuff like that, the rib cage, the pelvic mass, all that stuff. Um, and the point of it is to help you understand where all these things go, from the perspective of art that's already like really good, um, or even photographs of animals. So, um, yeah, I don't think that's cheating. And I mean, concept artists trace over stuff all the time. Same with like uh, Norman Rockwell. He traced stuff sometimes. The what's the guy who? How come I can never remember artist names? Drew Struzan.
Oh yeah,
Drew Struzan traced over a shit ton of stuff.
like everything, pretty
And
much.
yeah, pretty much all of it.
Well, because it needs to be
Fast,
very fast, and
very accurate.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would call him any less of an artist. Like no one would be like Drew Struzan is not a real artist. By the way, I should clarify.
That guy.
Yeah, Drew Struzan is a guy who did. He's really famous movie poster concept artist. So he did the movie posters for like the Star Wars movies and Harry Potter, Indiana Jones.
Everything basically in the 80s and
early 90s.
Yeah.
That guy, like the hand drawn sort of concept art type stuff. Yeah, total master. Traced a bunch of things.
Dizzy says, "You make me feel better as I mostly draw on paper. I'm not used to the tracing."
Yeah, I mean, eventually you want to be able to move away from that, but I think tracing is a great learning tool. And in some cases, like great for getting stuff done quickly.
I think it's interesting how some people feel like tracing is cheating, and like you said, like, oh, you're not a real artist. Some people think that, or it's not art if you trace it or whatever. But I feel like if I'm stressing out because I'm trying to prove something to somebody, then that just makes my art less enjoyable. So if I feel the need to get proportions down, or if I have a little time, then do what you got to do to make your art, and don't feel like you have to prove it to people, and don't feel like you have to use the methods that people who aren't artists think you should use.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure I'm clarify here, so I'm not like taken out of context. If you're going to be using tracing in some sort of artistic work, one, it's better if you're making like an end product, right, like concept art or something like that, or you're selling something, you're going to be selling prints, and you're going to be using tracing. It should either be open source photos you found online or photos you took yourself. You shouldn't trace other people's art and then sell that. That's going to be kind of a big no-no. And you also, if you're going to be doing it for studies and practice, you can totally trace other people's art and use it for that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're tracing stuff for the purpose of creating something new, you should be creating something new with it, right? Like you should be altering it in some way, or it's not just
a straight copy.
Yeah, it's just not just a straight copy. Otherwise, that's not really art. I mean, it is art, but it's just art of someone else's. Like it's not really. It didn't give you any value by making that. It didn't help you get any better.
Yeah, if you do it that way, then it's almost like that black board with a burlap sack or something that you were mentioning yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're like, give me $2,000 for this.
Well, hey, if that resonates with someone, I'm not one to tell them it doesn't.
So we're at 10:35, just so you know.
10:35. All right. What I should really probably do some studies of is like trees and rocks and landscape stuff.
It's interesting to see your process and things, and just kind of compare it to what I would do, and I think it's really cool to get this different perspective, because as far as the process of drawing things out goes, I don't feel like there's always an exact formula that you should always follow necessarily. It's kind of a style thing and just opinion and what works for you, but obviously there are some general guidelines that apply, like blocking in the shapes and working on proportions and things like that. But I think it's interesting that you blocked out the entire body before doing the head, and um, like for me, I would try blocking out all of the shapes roughly before. So what's kind of going through your mind as you're drawing it? Is it just, I don't know, tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking that head looks hard. I'm doing that last.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I mean, kind of. I mean, just as a general rule, I'm trying to keep things as loose as possible, and at least until I feel pretty confident in their placement relative to the rest of things. So, like, um, once I started getting like the legs and the back part feeling pretty solid, I felt a little bit more comfortable, kind of just lightly sketching in some of those wrinkles, um, because I felt like that's where they were going to go, and I was pretty close to where I wanted. And the less confident I am, I kind of hold off as long as possible so that I can keep moving things around without making like a big mess of my page. Um, so, like the head, for example. Well, there's a couple things. One, actually, here's a better answer. Sometimes uh, when you've practiced something for a long time, things kind of become second nature. You don't consciously think about them anymore. You're still doing them, but it's just kind of like secondhand, and so you don't realize you're purposely making that decision. But the reason I do the head last is because oftentimes, at least in my experience, we recognize heads a lot. It's usually the first thing we look at. And in most, like if you're drawing like an animal, for example, that's oftentimes one of the most iconic features of it. And if that part's off, it's really easy to tell, like right off the bat. Um, and like whether it's like too big for the body or if like the slope of the forehead is like anything like that, it's pretty easy for people to be like, that looks weird, like the body can be like slightly off in its proportions and its dimensions, stuff like that, and people will still be like, that's a lion. But if the head is not the right shape, or it's too big or too small, or the neck is too short, or whatever, it really starts to look funny and look weird. And
I'll
so
notice that.
right. And so doing the head last, make sure that I get all the body proportions accurate as possible, so that I can then, when I move on to the head, have a good reference starting point for the proportions of the head. Because I found that a lot of times if I did the head first, I mean, this isn't always the case. I usually just draw with whatever feels like is working. So this isn't like any sort of rule necessarily, but when I found that when I did the head first, sometimes what would happen is it would end up not feeling right attached to the body, because I would work on the body, but then after I'd get the body right, I'd realize that there were certain things on the head that I didn't get right. And I would have to go back and like change a bunch of stuff. So like right now.
So, I asked you, what was going on in your mind while you're drawing this, and Bruce says he's thinking, yes, this thing can definitely be a can opener. That's what you're thinking.
Yep. Oops.
Any more thoughts or questions, you guys? I think we only got a couple answers about what you guys are drawing. We got a cat, a woman, but it'd be awesome to get some more answers on what you guys are sketching, and kind of what's going on in your minds as you guys are drawing. And let us know if you have any questions, concerns, any kind of issues you're dealing with that Austin can give you guys some advice on. Whatever you feel. Thanks for joining Bruce. He's got to go back to work. So
See you, Bruce.
Sophia asks, Austin, have you ever done public art exhibitions?
Yeah, one time.
Oh, that's right, Samantha. Sorry I let you out. I remember you mentioning before in the chat that you're drawing a bull rider. So that's pretty cool. Comical Foods is drawing alien creature head doodles. Sounds cool. Sophia asked, did you enjoy it? Referring to the public art exhibition.
I did not enjoy it. I don't know. It was all right. It was kind of like, I don't know. I'm more into like making art for as a means to an end, for like, instead of art in and of itself, like the art is for either telling a story or something else, or for conveying an idea, I guess, instead of in and of itself. So it was kind of like, I don't know, it was all right. I wasn't like, this sucks, but I do think it would be like more like this wouldn't be very productive if I was trying to meet a deadline or something. This wouldn't be very efficient.
Looks awesome. That head turned out great.
I'm still feeling like it's not quite right, but
Are you feeling in relation to the body or the head itself is not looking right? You know what I mean?
yeah, mostly in relation to the body, I think. But I think that fixed it.
I'm seeing at the bottom of the neck, it stops right underneath the eye in the photo. I don't know if that plays into it at all, but
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Overall, though, it's just not. I drew a slightly different angle than what was actually there. My head was kind of trying to fill in the gaps a little bit.
so we're at the 25th of January. Just wanted to remind you guys that Austin's Udemy courses in January are at a huge discount. Looks like, what did you say they were at? They were at
$10.
$10, which is awesome. Really, really awesome, you guys. You'll definitely want to check out those courses. I've learned a lot from Austin's courses, and I know you will too. There's a bunch of different courses that he's got. Guide to get to digital sketching, photorealistic digital painting, light and color. He's got, one of his most popular would be the digital painting mega course, beginner to advanced. So that goes through tons of different tips and tons of cool stuff about digital painting, creature design, all sorts of stuff. So definitely check those out. The links to those courses are in the description here on this live stream video.
All right, we got any other questions?
Nobody. We got a comment from Donna Marshall saying Austin's courses are awesome.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you were to flesh this out and turn it into a painting, what would be your next step after getting the sketch down?
Probably, I would just go into. I don't know. It would kind of depend on what painting style I was going to go with. If I was going to do like a more painterly approach, I'd probably just do almost everything on one layer and just go right into values and colors. And just start painting on top of the drawing on a new layer, and then do pretty much all of it on one layer. If I was going to go a route where I thought it was going to be used for concept art or something like that, where I might need to change it, I would start with the flat colors. What it would be kind of look like with just like an even white light all over it without any sort of like direction, just like the flat colors, and then shadow layers, and then highlight layers, and then another layer of darker shadows, and then another layer of more lighting, and then go from there. Reflected light, ambient occlusion, highlights, all that stuff. So yeah, it would
Cool.
kind of depend, I guess.
That's cool. It makes a lot of sense when you're doing concept art to really focus on using layers, so that you can change things up if somebody's not,
If they're less than
100%.
excited.
Yeah, if they're less than excited, or if they're just like, well, oh, this is great, but let's try it in this lighting, or let's put it in a different environment or whatever, then you can change it up easily, um, if you've got it all separated by different layers. Tizzy says it looks great. Unfortunately, it's dinner time here, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands. Thanks once again for a great drawing opportunity.
All right, enjoy your dinner. Save some for me.
Thanks for joining us.
Tell the good old fam hello. All right. I'm probably going to call it good here because I don't think I have time to jump into any sort of shading or more detailed stuff without going way over time. We'll answer a few more questions. I'll just kind of outline it a little bit more crisply.
Samantha says, thanks for live stream. I have to go eat too. It's noon on the East Coast.
Well, enjoy your meal. Make that drawing a non-negotiable, just like eating.
Right? I love that. I was thinking just the other day, I can't remember what the situation was exactly, but oh yeah, it was about working out, and and people say, I just don't have time to work out. It's like, yeah, you do. You just don't make time for it, right? Because it's just must not be one of your higher priorities. So you just don't make time for it.
Right.
If it's like a huge priority to you, like sleeping or eating or showering or something like that, then you're gonna make time for it. Like you make time to get dressed in in your day. Like you have time to do some exercise if you want. If you don't, then that's up to you. Like that's your thing, and you do what you want with your time. So I think it's the same with drawing. Like if you're like, oh, I just don't have time to draw. Well, yes, you do. It just needs to become more important than whatever else you're doing that's taking up your time.
Yep, agree.
Comical Foods asks, have you read Dinotopia?
Yeah, actually, Dinotopia is the shiz. I have Dinotopia. One, what's it called? Dinotopia. Is it just called Dinotopia? The first one, I have Dinotopia, and then I have Dinotopia something Skyback, something the Skybacks writers or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, I have both those. And then when I was a kid, I also read a lot of the novelizations as well. They're really interesting.
Okay, so fill me in on what Dinotopia is.
Are you joking me? You don't know what?
I just don't know what it is. So.
Oh my goodness, you're fired. Just kidding. Dinotopia is it's a story by James Gurney about this guy and his son who it's kind of like Victorian era, I think. They like crash, their ship crashes, they're traveling on this ship and it crashes and they end up washed up on this shore, or it sinks, end up washed on this shore, this island. That's like in the middle of this big storm vortex. Like it's the whole island is surrounded by like this huge storm, but in the middle it's like calm. So like it's no ships can like ever get to it. And they find this like civilization where like people live with dinosaurs in like peace, and the dinosaurs can like talk and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just about. It's like the book is kind of written like a field journal, like him talking about like what happened and like his what's the word? His like observations about like how they live and stuff. And then they ended up making like a TV adaptation of it, which was pretty bad. But and then there's also a bunch of like books.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know why I'm so surprised when people haven't heard of Dinotopia, but I'm just like, what?
Well, I'm looking at the art for it right now, and it's amazing.
Yeah, James Gurney is a master of realism, like fantasy realism. He does a lot of work for National Geographic as like a paleo artist guy.
Wow.
So he's the shiz. All right. Think we're gonna call it good here for today. And by the way, Comical Foods, I got your email. I just haven't looked at it yet. I've been busy, but I'll respond to you today. All right. Enough. I want to finish this guy though. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, he's cool.
I just don't like doing the same thing 2 days in a row for the live stream because I want people to get bored, like, I don't know, I like switching it up. So anyways, that's it for today. We will see you guys all tomorrow. Same time, 10 o'clock. Just a little update. After this month, I'm going to do this for till the end of the month. I probably won't keep doing it for February, at least not every day. I'll probably still do it some days, but if I want to get my course launched in February, I really gotta like buckle down and start working on lectures. And I've just been having such a hard time getting them done this month because my time. By the time I finish with the live stream, it's about 11. And I have to work around when my son is asleep, or my wife goes out with him somewhere, because it's really difficult to record while he's awake or home, because if he starts crying in the middle of recording, I basically have to scrap that and start over, or stop and just like wait till he's quiet again. And he's a little baby, so it's not like I can just be like, hey, can you please be quiet? And my house isn't like super big, so like his room's right next to my office, and then like the kind of general, or like the living room, whatever, is below my office. So it's really hard to film. And having courses going or doing a live stream, it makes it even less time for when I could record, since I have to try and be flexible and like take advantage of opportunities I have. So I really want to crack down and get my course launched in February and published. So I'm probably going to have to cut down the live streams. But we'll see exactly how much, or if I do them at all. But I am for sure going to finish out the month, and we'll get that done. So anyways, that's it for today's video. See you all guys. See you guys. See you all guys. See all you guys. And gals, because I had someone in one of my comments get pretty mad at me that I always said, see you guys in the next one. They're like, there's women in your audience. And I was like, yeah, you know that term is referring to like a group of people, not necessarily anyone specifically gendered as a man. It's like, hey guys, like there's more than one definition. But she's like, no, you're sexist. And I was like, okay, bye. Anyways, yeah, have a good one. Bye guys and girls.